Well, good morning and welcome to the February 23rd meeting of the MAP 3 Citizens Advisory Board. We will formally call the meeting to order and ask for you to review and consider the approval of the minutes of the January 26th, 2012 meeting. Are there additions or corrections to the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes as they are.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the January 26th meeting. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. We have before us the MAP 3 Revenue and Expenditure Report. Eric, you want to touch on that for us?
I'd be happy to. Thank you. We do have a handout for you today. There's an error on the percentages as it was distributed in the original packet that have been corrected on the handout. But to summarize the report, it is the period ending December 31st. See the sales tax collections for the month were about $7.7 million. We've included the percent over target for the month. You'll find those as 1.3%, and for the fiscal year, about 2.4%. As previously discussed, we've looked at it since inception. And we're about 2% over our target if we were to look at it from a cumulative level. So things are looking very good. We do have the other details of the report attached, and I'd be happy to answer questions that you might have.
Michael, what is negative revenue?
You know, we have there are sales tax collection periods that actually occur in some cases where there is actually corrections that are negative, where they have found that it's possible that they have sent too much money and there's a correction that occurs that month. There are also corrections sometimes to the interest. The interest has sometimes positive and negatives that result. And so my estimation is it's one of those two corrections, but we have seen those.
Eric, also, does the 2% above projections mean that we're collecting 2% more sales tax, or does that include the interest as well? I do not believe the 2% includes the interest, and we're looking at it just from a cumulative standpoint, month to month. If we were to total all of the funds together, we're now a little over $3 million above the target since inception. So excluding the interest?
Excluding the interest.
Good. Michael, you had a question?
No question. I was just going to say that I had tied out the receipts from the reports by the state as to what the sales tax collections were, and everything looks fine, and I would move approval.
All right. We're asked to receive this report, and Mike has moved that we do so. Is there a second? Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We've received the report. Item 3 is a recommended resolution from the regarding the Trails Project. Eric, are you going to explain this for us?
I'd be glad to. As most of you know, as we've been working through the subcommittees over the past several months, we've discussed the project requirement documents for each of the individual projects. And so what you have today are two. The first is the Trails project requirements, and your next action item is on the actual sidewalks themselves. These are documents that compile a lot of your input. They also include city standards for construction, and any other specific project details, the budget, the scope of work, all of those things, so that we can hand these to the architects and the engineers that will actually be working on the project. Several of the projects will have multiple architects or engineers, and this also helps us provide some consistency in the delivery, since some of the projects are going to occur over a range of time. So those have been completed. They've been through the subcommittee. I know that ADG and Mike Mize have worked diligently to ensure that everything's been incorporated. Both have been recommended, and so we bring those to you today for your consideration of approval. Following approval from the City Council, we'll then start distributing them for use on the actual projects themselves.
Zane, you want to give us a report from the subcommittee?
I'd only add that in Eric's description of what the plan includes, it also depicts the proposed routes for some of the trails. Doesn't include sidewalks yet, but at least some of where we plan to have the trails. And both measures were unanimously passed for recommendation to the board.
Well, there are separate items on the agenda, so why don't we deal with them separately. The first is the resolution approving the Trails project requirements. Is there a motion to approve it?
I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael.
Is all of the city trails the 9-foot wide paved trails Is that the plan, or is there no demand for dirt trails in certain wilderness areas of the city for mountain bikers or cross-country runners or things like that?
Eric, if I may, they're all paved planned trails right now. However, they may not all be 9 foot wide, depending on some of the corridors that we have to get through because of the obstructions. But yes, it's all paved planned right now.
Is that the master trails plan? Is for
Generally, yes, but there are some deviations from the Trails Master Plan, just as discussed. I mean, we do find conditions where they're either narrower or different materials. I mean, you would find in some cases in Oklahoma City that the trails actually are widened sidewalks. They're concrete, but they're wider than a typical sidewalk. For MAPS 3, generally the purpose is to connect the area lakes. And so I think what you'll find is a lot of consistency in the MAPS 3 trails, even though you're going to find some deviations on the OKC Trails Master Plan. So the standards that are prescribed in the project requirements are intended for use specifically for the MAPS 3 work.
Okay. I know there's a lot of use, Martin Nature Park, and people create trails around Stinchcombe and around Overholser and places like that. So it seems to be a demand for wilderness trails too, and I didn't know if that was ever covered in this.
And there has been some discussion from parks. You know, the OKC Trails Master Plan is older. I mean, it needs to be updated, and there is some ongoing conversations about whether an update will be coming in the near future, and I would anticipate additional trails or possibly updated standards being provided as well. But there's been no decisions on that yet, but we are comfortable with what's provided today to allow those engineers to work forward towards some standardization for MAPS 3.
Okay. Very good.
Mike Mines, you had a comment?
The minimum trail that...
Mike, come on up to the podium. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The project requirements call for a minimum of 10 feet with an overall goal of 12 feet where we can achieve that. There may be some places where the 10 feet can't be achieved, particularly where we're using existing sidewalks or right-of-ways which won't allow that. But the goal is for it to be a minimum of 10 and overall 12 feet.
My comment had more to do with the surfacing, I guess. If there wasn't, users that don't want to run on a concrete trail or don't want to bike on a concrete trail. So that was just the thought.
The project requirements call primarily for asphalt.
Okay.
Asphalt rather than concrete, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Further questions? Further discussion? I think you're going to make it.
I move that we accept the resolution approving the Trails project.
Is there a second? I'll second. Been moved and seconded. We approve item 4, approving the Trails project requirements. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is approved. Item 5 has already been described, unless you want to describe it further, Eric.
I think the only thing that I'll add is the architect, Smith Roberts Balschweiler, is currently working on a MAPS 3 Trails master plan, so the locations for the sidewalks have not been identified yet. There are several meetings pending on that. We are comfortable with the details that are included in the project requirements. These are city standard details for the construction of sidewalks, but there's going to be some ongoing discussion as to actual locations, so that's not included.
Anything you want to add, Zay?
Nothing further to add to that. That covered it very well.
Okay, you want to?
I move that we accept the recommendation for the resolution for the sidewalks.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution for the sidewalks project requirements. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. That brings us to item 6 on the agenda, the resolution approving a contract for engineering services. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you recall, we had initiated the contract negotiations with Triad Design Group for the Phase 1 work at the fairgrounds. Recall that the fairgrounds is anticipated to be constructed in 2 phases, the first being site work, the second phase actually being the major construction or the building itself, the expo building. Contract's been successfully negotiated. You'll find that it includes a basic services fee of $416,420. This work will include some limited site master planning to make sure that parking, access, all of those things as it relates to the new site plan for the fairgrounds are taken into consideration, so that when the building Phase 2 project comes later, that has all been coordinated. And so we are recommending your consideration of the contract today so that we can proceed to City Council.
Russ, anything to add from the subcommittee?
No, nothing else to add. That covers it.
All right. Then, is there a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second? Further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. We approve this resolution approving the contract for engineering services. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. We have an old friend as our guest today. Eric, do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, I'd be happy to ask Mike Knott to come make a presentation to you today. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening along the Oklahoma River. We obviously have a lot of MAPS 3 projects that are planned, but there's also a lot of other developments that are underway. And when the River Subcommittee met this week, one of the items that we asked that Mike come make a presentation on were any updates to the Oklahoma River Master Plan. So we've got an opportunity today to present that to you, and Mike will be available to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Well, I'm excited to give everyone an update. We do have a lot of exciting momentum going on at the river. Over the past year, we've had the opening of the Chesapeake Finish Line Tower and the Devon Boathouse, and as a result, I think we've had some sense of completion to at least an initial phase of construction, although we know we're really only getting started, but it feels good to be complete to some level. It has really brought, I think, the attention of the world, at least in paddle sports and rowing, that Oklahoma City is really becoming a true center. Obviously, that was amplified with the announcement of USA Canoe Kayak moving here a couple months ago, and the recent announcement we have received the Olympic trials, which will occur here in April. So continue to have these really great things happen. And I think where we're going and what you're going to see in this plan is this idea that really the river is becoming as much an attraction, where you can come spend the day, or a visitor to Oklahoma City can come spend the day, as it is an event destination, and as it is a place for health and fitness. So it's something we really see. It's very unique that this is a place that not only can you come spend the day, have an incredible adventure, but also it's a place that your kids can come and get involved in something, a program, a team, but you can as well. Mom and dad can come get involved in something that's very active and healthy at the same time as their kids, and then also come and spend the day. So that's really what has transpired here and what the vision really calls for the future. Let me move ahead here. There we go. Formatting came off a little differently here, but River Sport is really the Boathouse Foundation, Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation's brand for all of our programming. And that continues to grow. We have many youth programs that are tremendous growth in the high school programming. In fact, now we have 8-year-olds coming out who are involved in our paddling programs. We've got elementary schools getting engaged. Really something for everyone, and there's no barrier, there's no cost barrier. That's something that we're fortunate that we really, through our foundation, we have a lot of great support that allows us to really not allow there to be any barrier to a school getting involved, and we see that as very important going forward. We also we have programming at Lake Overholser as well, and the redevelopment of those facilities, and our corporate and group programs, team building. We've got about 44 corporate rowing teams and dragon boat teams, so there's every way in the world for you to come down and get involved in programming there. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I'm not clicking here. This is an image of our new paddling program with our kids. These are, again, very young kids. In the past, rowing was very, 12 to 13 was really the gateway because of what was the coordination required with all the paddle sports. We can get kids in very young. Of course, they can come out with their parents at any age. So go ahead and move on. We emphasize nutritional training. That's part of our programming, and we get into schools. We're visiting schools all throughout the metro area and providing access. And this is Lake Overholser, just an image of how we're very sensitive to what goes on out there as well, connecting to that community and how it all ties together. And this is a copy of or overview of the events. We have many, many events coming up this year. The Olympic trials, the Big 12 Championship, the Central Youth Championship, just in the next few months. And then I remind you we have a World Championship coming in 2014, which will be very exciting. Just we can go through some of these slides. These are just images of all the activity going on at the river, the big events that occur. And keep moving. Those are one. And we get to River Sport Adventures. Go ahead and. This is an overview. What we've taken is our master plan with some of the MAPS projects, and then really showing really all there is to do. There's a lot of activities that are emerging, and I'm going to try to explain what is going to happen this year versus next year, or a vision for the future. But starting this year, we're going to start something called the Adventure Saturdays, where you can come down, spend the day, and do many different activities, completely open to everyone, from dragon boating to kayaking to a rowing experience, and you can see how it spreads out through the venue. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The Chesapeake, or the Finish Line Tower, will become a visitor center. You see on the side the movie screen. We're actually going to be hosting the opening night of the Dead Center Film Festival this year at the Finish Line Tower with projections on the building and at a screen by the water. We'll have summer movies at the river, projecting just a really neat outdoor on that lawn there by the boathouse. So, and you can see our kayak adventure that we have for all ages, flat water kayak, and we have a production studio now that we can do actual programming. Dragon boating, we have that is being. This interesting thing about this is, as we talk about seniors, our wellness centers. This is a very important connection to our senior community in that we're really emphasizing senior dragon boating. This has been very popular in other cities, and it's very accessible. So we already have seniors groups from the city that are coming out this spring, and they're going to be dragon boating, and that's going to be very exciting. The rowing experience, you can come in the Devon Boathouse rowing tank and get an experience, and then on the water in our barges, which are very safe. Now, this is where we get to the new development. We announced about a month ago, or a couple months ago, about a wonderful commitment by Blue Cross Blue Shield that kind of got this the project started, and then followed by Sandridge Energy. We're going to have what we call the Sandridge Youth Pavilion, which is going to be this wonderful structure, which will be an enclosed structure. It started out as an open-air facility, but now it'll be a building, if you can imagine the Devon Boathouse without any walls inside, essentially a big open area where we can have lots of large programs. The need is there because we have no place to bring all these kids that are getting involved, but at the same time it will be the hub for all the adventures, the adventure attractions that will start to emerge. You see on the left of that, to the west, is the Kaboom Park playground, which is currently there. We're going to put a cover over that and enhance that playground to create some very unique features that are not seen anywhere in this region that complement what you'll be able to also do for older kids and adults in the Sandridge Youth Pavilion. So let's go ahead and I'll explain some of these. So you can see a closer look at, there's not an official name, but essentially it's like an adventure park. Everything is health and wellness oriented. Everything you do, you're going to burn a lot of calories doing, but you're going to have it's going to be an adventure. And you see that tower rising over the Sandridge Youth Pavilion. That's the Sky Trail and the zip line. Go ahead and go forward here. And then this is the shelter over the playground, and it'll have a glowing effect, so it complements everything else that is going on. As you can see, the Sandridge Youth Pavilion will be all glass. And then that's the UCO Boathouse, also in the background, which will feature a music venue. That is still, they're in the fundraising process right now, but they're making good progress. We expect that to come to a close. The project actually starting, we think, before the end of the year. So I think they're moving ahead nicely. Go ahead and move. This is a look at the Sky Trail from the side. If you can imagine, if you've driven along I-40, you're heading eastbound, you now have this great view of the river and the Boathouse District, and now you're going to see this tall structure. This will be actually the tallest of its kind in the world. So it kind of goes along with all of the things we're doing being world-class and unique. And to give you a quick explanation of this is like a ropes course that you may have seen in many places or in the woods, except it's a new version in that it's all steel and it's very safe, and that you're belayed, you're connected at the ground, and a rail goes all the way through the whole system. You go up each level, going through multiple different features, walking over ropes and bridges and cargo nets and all kinds of things, making your way to the top. It's a thrilling experience. It's but again, very urban in that you'll be right in the middle of the city in doing this, and get quite a view. We actually were in Michigan last week. We're working with a company. We think this project will get started later this year, with potentially being open, we would like, by the regatta this year, if everything works out. It's fully funded, and as is the zip line. So this is a very exciting project. Go ahead and move on.
Mike, when you say fully funded, you mean privately funded?
Yeah, all of what I'm talking about here is privately funded. Private funds, yes, thank you. You can also see a rock wall on the back side of that kind of goes along with this. Everything that we've come up here that you see, we feel complements the kind of activities that are planned or going on currently in the Boathouse District. Again, sports, there's something that will keep you coming out to continue to experience all these activities. And this is an image of the Sky Trail at another location. This is in Tennessee. This is for all ages, not just kids. Go ahead and move it. You can kind of get a closer look at what that looks like. Imagine being 6 stories up doing that. That'll be quite exciting. I'm sure everyone here will participate in that. And then another image of that. Go ahead. This is looking in through the park that is planned, or the expansion of the park. We will have a junior zip line, a little rock wall, and many Sky Trail features, so 4-year-olds can have that same experience that their older brothers and sisters or parents are doing. This is around the youth pavilion. We'll have water features. This did not show up, but we see some spray features for kids. An interior view of the playground with a smaller zip line and some other features for kids. Everything will have a night element to it. Now the zip line, let me explain that real quick. That will be connected to the Sky Trail, the same belay system. This is something that is, again, fully funded privately. You will zip 700 feet across the river, come to a tower, go ahead and go to the next one, you'll see, to this tower that's on the south shore, and then you will climb up a little farther and then zip back across the river over the top of the youth pavilion, without hitting it, but be close, and then you'll end up at the youth, be back at the tower. What's exciting about this and the way it's designed is it's expandable. So it can go east when we have a whitewater center, so it becomes sort of like a people-moving system in some ways, in a very unique way, also very thrilling. Go ahead and move on, and we get to the youth pavilion. This is an image of all of these high school programs having youth programs having a bigger place for them to get together. Go ahead. And you can see all glass. There'll be doors all around it so it can open up and have a very open feel to it. And there will be a concession area and a place for people gathering for the attractions, but then a large youth activity area. This is shown with all the tables and chairs in it, but it could just be completely open as well. And then you see the surf park. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions about this. Okay, surfing, that seems kind of, but we said that about rowing 10 years ago, and it seemed to work out pretty well, so why not surfing? And what's interesting about surfing is it's this system, the technology allows us to simulate actual surfing, and it combines surfing with snowboarding, what you experience when you snowboard, so very exciting for kids. And what's also unique, it's very, this is not a ride. I mean, there's skill, there's training that's involved, there will be competitions. They have a circuit that goes around the world with indoor surfing competitions. Imagine doing that on the Oklahoma River, and our kids being on a surfing team, just like they could be on a rowing or a kayak team. And there's interest in surfing becoming an Olympic sport. So we're kind of at the front end of that. So, yes. Yeah. 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 So, but the surfing, and let me explain, the Sandridge Youth Pavilion, they are the title sponsor to this project. We are also seeking additional partners and grants. We are well on our way. All of these are officially a part of the project. We believe that the youth pavilion, the surfing element, will be a part of the development of that pavilion, which we see starting either at the end of this year or early next year. We'd like to see this complete in 2013. So and it's a good view looking towards the river. Go ahead. And there's an image of either surfing, bodyboarding. It's, above you, you'll see people zipping across over, and so it'll be very exciting. All of this thing complements the future with the whitewater and the kind of adventure that will occur there, and the different activities that there's freestyle kayaking now that will be a part of our whitewater center. But this is open to everyone, adults, kids. Michael mentioned trails. This is another feature of what we see happening within this boathouse district are mountain bike trails, and that will occur. That we have great cycling trails with the paved trails, but we have a concept for a mountain bike circuit, more of an urban circuit that will go in down there that complements everything else. So that is also in the works. So all of these things that you've seen are officially in the plan. Some will occur this year. Some are slated for next year. The OU Boathouse is also making exceptional progress, and we see that project starting also very soon. And there is a conceptual project which if you recall, in your packet you'll see on the master plan there's a 5th boathouse, and that project has not been defined yet, other than we believe it can go with the Whitewater Center serving the river and the Whitewater, potentially have the place where you have your rafts, your kayaks, food. People love the idea of there being a restaurant there at some point. We don't know, but we think there could be a great opportunity for a 5th boathouse. So that's all I have. Any questions at this point?
I'm sorry.
Mike, I'm blown away by your presentation. This is much more sophisticated and exciting and visionary than I even imagined. I probably haven't been paying attention to the rivers projects as much as I should. This is really, really exciting. You mentioned some of the projects slated for this year. Which of the projects are for this year? And then in your fundraising, I suppose you're doing your fundraising based on projects?
Correct.
Yeah, and where are you finding kind of the more appealing, compelling? Are any projects more appealing or compelling to fundraisers than others?
Yeah, well, I think everything, we've had great feedback. I think what we've seen happen is the momentum is now starting to take hold, because we've shown the success of the river with the events and with the programs and the facilities that have been completed. So we've had great feedback. I think the things that resonate are how the projects that impact in the health, the wellness, the accessibility, and really everything that we've proposed has that component. And so that was something I know with Sandridge, the youth connection is very important. And as we said, if we're going to have a world-class river, literally have features here that are nowhere else, you can't see anywhere else in the world, we ought to have every opportunity for every kid in Oklahoma City to participate. And that is resonating. And so with the Sandridge Youth Pavilion, we're going to have an opportunity for everyone to get involved. And so the youth programs, and then the health and wellness programs. The Sky Trail was actually very appealing to various different partners or people that have gotten involved, because not only are you having this great adventure, but again, you're burning a lot of calories doing it. It's exciting, and that's a project that we've just returned from Michigan. We went to Michigan last week, and what we weren't sure about is whether we can divide that project, because it is connected to the Youth Pavilion. It actually goes into the Youth Pavilion. We found out that we can actually phase that first, and we think it's important to do that so we can get it started. And so we found as long as we can we think it can be completed this year, and we're gonna be aggressive at that. And then the zip line, we're probably going to wait till we have the pavilion complete, since it goes over the top. We don't really want people zipping over the top of a construction site with cranes and whatever. So, but we will complete the playground and the Sky Trail initially. So.
Well, I'm just going to put in a plug, I guess. We had a meeting yesterday morning. If you look at this picture that's up there now, the top floor of the Finish Line Tower is an excellent little meeting room, and it's available for rent. And if you go up there early in the morning and see the people out there rowing, and then look over the downtown skyline, I don't know, 50, 60 people probably in that room you could hold, Mike? I don't know.
That's correct.
Excellent place to have a meeting, and it was really a neat place to be early in the morning, so keep that in mind.
And then you can go have a rowing or dragon boat experience with an Olympic coach. So thanks for the plug, Gary. But yes, it is a great opportunity. One other thing on the SkyTrail, just of interest, is it is very new, and what's exciting is we will have the tallest in the world, and which, kind of goes along with what we're doing. But the company we're working with just signed a deal with Disney the week before, so this is something that, we like being on the cutting edge, and, this is something that you're going to see there, but ours is going to be truly unique. So.
It occurs to me, have you thought about having a senior wellness center on the river?
Yeah. I mean, we thought about it. We think it's, as I said, the dragon boating is, we have seen great interest in senior groups coming down there. So I think that all makes sense because, again, we see this as a center for health and wellness for Oklahoma City.
Chairman,
Rusty?
Just an easy question. Is there going to be a charge, especially for the children doing the zip line and the surfing and the kayak and all these things? Is there a charge at all?
Oh, yeah, we've got it. I mean, it's like the zoo or anything else. There'll be some charge, and it helps the sustainability of the nonprofit. However, so that being said, we will have, as we have with all of our programs, we have opportunities through some of our partners to provide access. Our schools, for example, have access based on we use various standards for awarding scholarships and those kinds of things. But we never we feel the health and wellness of the community is really important. We have to operate all of this, so we have to have some earned revenue, and that's really important to the overall picture. But we'll also have other opportunities for people to come out. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. First of all, as a native Californian, I want to thank you very much for bringing the ocean back to me. As an Oklahoma implant, I want to commend you folks over and over for the attention to detail in building a world-class facility and continuing to set the Oklahoma standards. You exceed, I think, expectations every time we see a presentation. I love the aesthetics, the design, and I'm tickled to death that the electrical utilities blend in. So they all look like they all belong and are a part of it. So keep up the great work.
Well, thank you.
Anyone else? Mike, thank you for all you're doing for our community and for making this presentation for us. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Well, that fits very well, I guess, into the next item on the agenda. You want to tell us about that, Eric?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. We have obviously made some progress on the river as we look at Mike's presentation with private development, but also on a MAP 3 perspective. There's another step that was taken this week by the subcommittee. What you have is a resolution recommending the site for the Whitewater facility. If you remember looking at one of the slides that Mike just showed, you'll see that facility's recommended location is just east of the boathouses that are currently there on the river. So this is a site that's bounded by Phillips Avenue on the west, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation's right away on the south of the new I-40 to the north, the river drainage channel to the east and southeast 6th Street. The actual acquisition of the site, though, we're asking that we not proceed on that today. There's still a lot of engineering decisions that need to be made regarding the Whitewater course. It's something that we most likely will need to engage the Whitewater consultant to go ahead and start figuring out heights and elevations and different things. The river at that location is very flat, and there is going to have to be some fill and some things that need to address some changes to the terrain. But then there's some other conflicts that are there that we're aware of. There's some utility conflicts, possible utility relocations that are going to be required, amongst other things that may show themselves once there's a survey completed. But ADG did do a considerable amount of background work on behalf of the subcommittee in MAPS 3, and so there was a comfort level reached that this would be a recommended site. And so the subcommittee did take action this week and asked for your consideration in citing the Whitewater Park so that we can go ahead and make some steps forward, but not at this time recommending that staff proceed with the actual acquisition.
Michael Adams, you want to comment on the subcommittee meeting?
Well, there is a report in the packet. Are we presenting this report or the report? Or?
The report itself is actually in a draft form, and we wanted to take a little bit additional opportunity to bring that back. So I think the report that Mike mentions is one that was presented this week, but there wasn't anything found in that study that caused any alarm at the subcommittee level. But I think that's something we could bring back as an official document in the future.
But it had some, I guess, some sketches of the area, possible sizes of a park, how many acres. There's still some flexibility, I guess, on the amount of land that might be required and how it might be sited on that particular area. So there were some options there, and there was quite a bit of study done, I think, on the utilities. There's some underground sewer lines, some overhead electrical lines, other things in the area, and the old water lines, because this was a residential area once upon a time. So all that has to be studied, and I guess there's partially in a floodplain, and we really haven't done the environmental study yet. So all those things kind of need to be looked at, but I think it's the desire of the committee that this is the right location for it if those things can be worked out. And so that, I think, is where we left it. So, but there's going to be field work done regardless of the site, just to get the elevation necessary to have the water flow. So there's some field work here required for floodplain purposes, but there's also a lot of field work to be required regardless of where you build it, just to get it, unless you have a mountain in Oklahoma somewhere you can build it on.
Well, he comes to us with a recommendation that we approve the resolution for the site that's been described.
I'm sorry, I had one question.
Sure.
So as I understand it, we would be approving this site. However, with further investigation, if there's too much remediation, too much work to be overcome, then a new site could possibly be selected that better fit. Okay.
I think it'd be fair to say, though, that the recommendation we heard at the subcommittee was that this would work here, subject to doing the work. I think, is that a fair statement, Mike? From a size standpoint, this worked, but there's more investigation to be done. So they're asking, this comes to us from the subcommittee, asking us to recommend this, to approve this site, subject to the work that Eric has described. Is there a motion, Michael?
Yes, I'll make the motion that we pass the resolution approving this as the site.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded that we approve the resolution approving this site as described in the documents before you. As many as favor the motion say aye. Opposed? No. The resolution is approved. All right. That brings us to item 9. Eric, are there any items that you want to discuss under the general item 9?
We don't have anything additional today. Thank you.
All right. Item 10, subcommittee reports. We've heard about some of the subcommittee meetings. Any other subcommittee want to have a report to make to us?
I will go ahead and talk about our Modern Streetcar Transit Subcommittee. We met yesterday, and there's a quarter-shore plan that is going to be, right now it's being presented to the subcommittees, and will eventually make its way up here to the advisory board. In that plan, there were some questions that were brought up about modern streetcar and transit, and the subcommittee felt that those needed to be addressed. So we're developing a recommended proposal to address some of the questions that came up in the plan about ridership, route, whether servicing core to shore, the park, and the convention center. So you'll be seeing that in the coming months. We discussed a lot about the proposed route to, initially we brought forward a modern streetcar route that included about 4 miles through the backbone of Oklahoma City. Now we're looking at how that's going to connect and service the park, the convention center, and into the Bricktown area. In the next couple of subcommittee meetings, we'll be discussing those routes and probably be coming forward with a proposal to the advisory board that will show you what we recommend as a subcommittee where that part of the route should go. And then, let's see, we also discussed the A&E for transit that hasn't been a proposal yet, but you'll be probably seeing next month was a solicitation for bids for an A&E So with that, that's all I have for transit.
I think one of the items that was mentioned by Zane is that there was a Court Ashore Maps 3 study that we asked ADG to help us with. There were a lot of questions raised several months ago, if you recall, about the viability of Court Ashore, that if Maps 3 changed anything, were there items that needed to be considered? And so this is a report that ADG has prepared that we're bringing to each of the subcommittee meetings. What I will share with you is that the report did not identify any major concerns. Court Ashore, the original plan as conceived, still works very well with Maps 3. There have been some recommendations made for some consideration. Obviously, with the siding of the convention center, with the new boulevard, with the new park, there's a lot of coordination that needs to occur with those new projects, with a lot of the existing downtown developments. And so those items are also noted in that report. But the staff's goals are to take that to each of the subcommittees. It's been to transit. It has yet to go to convention center. But we want to receive any input from those subcommittees prior to bringing that before the advisory board. That is something that we are planning to bring, as Zane mentioned, hopefully in the next probably 2 months. We still need to have the convention center meeting next month, but I would anticipate most likely probably April. So just to kind of introduce you to what that report actually is, it was a study. It was to just ensure the viability of Maps 3 and Court Ashore being able to work together.
Thank you.
Sorry, if you're, I'd like to go a little bit further and say that there were some comments made in the report that we, the Transit Subcommittee, felt were not adequately addressed and made it appear that they were doubting some of the transit. And so we felt strongly enough that it needed to be, those questions needed to be addressed. And that's why we're bringing forward with a rebuttal.
And we'll bring those comments forward along with Convention Center or any other comments that we get from the subcommittees. But we'll bring those all together at one time for your review and consideration.
Any questions for Zane? Kimberly, you want to tell us about the park?
Yes, I have quite a bit to say, actually. The Park Subcommittee met yesterday afternoon. It was our first meeting since November. To catch you up a little bit, in December, notice went to architects, engineers, and planners for consultant services for two things. First, the Upper Downtown Park engineering services, and those are for existing utilities, rights-of-way and easements. And then the second was on the Downtown Park master plan development for both the upper and lower parks, and then what will become phase 1 of Downtown Park improvement designs. I was amazed. The city received phenomenal results from both of these notices, including 16 on the Downtown Park master plan. And these came from consultants as far as Seattle, Denver, Houston, several from Oklahoma, several from New York, and even one from the UK. Those proposals have been scored to the shortlist, and final interviews are going to be held first for engineering services on March 2nd. Our shortlist includes Cardinal Engineering, Lemke Land Service, Cobb Engineering, Johnson Associates, and MacArthur Associates Consultants. We're excited about that. Currently, we're in the stages of scheduling interviews for the Downtown Park Master Plan shortlist. Those that made the list were Design Workshop, Hargraves and Associates, James Corner Field Operations, and Michael Van Valkenburg Associates. Then also in January, notice went to architects, engineers, and planners for environmental engineering services. Those proposals have been submitted back and are in the scoring process. Yesterday at our meeting, we too were presented the same document on the limited Court Ashore study. That is, it's a wealth of information, and it does look at every single one of the highlights of Court Ashore, and in my opinion, it is going to become a great working document along every project. It took critical looks at everything. And I know this study started months and months ago, so some of the information that we're seeing in just the last few days feels maybe a little bit out of date because things have progressed further, but I really think after having time to digest all the information in there, it's going to be a great networking document, not only for all the downtown projects that are existing on the MAPS projects, but also for future economic development. So, job well done, AGG. We also yesterday received the draft of the downtown park requirements and received an overview of that. Our subcommittee is going to be working as homework so that when we convene for our March meeting, we will narrow those down and ratify that. Finally, we have a historic age study that's underway, looking at structures in the park area prior to any demolition work, and we look forward to hearing the results of that. I was going to talk a little bit about park acquisition, but I'll leave that. And I think we're moving ahead with great intent and passion. Unless you have any other comments, Michael? That's all we have.
Questions for Kimberly? Michael Dover, did you want to have anything from the senior wellness centers?
Well, just, as most of you know, I think that we have received two response to the RFP for operating partners, and we have heard back from two potential partners, the YMCA and the City County Health Department. The interviews with those possible partners will be probably the end of the second week, or the first week in March. I think it's going to be like March 7th and 8th. I think we'll firm up that date pretty soon. The point being that that recommendation from that selection committee then will go to the Senior Health and Wellness Subcommittee and then come to, I think, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, hopefully we'll be able then to make a report at our next advisory board meeting in March.
That would be one of our goals, and I think as you've heard on a couple of the discussions, we are taking some extra time to schedule these interviews. As we discussed early on, we want to make sure that we're getting good participation from the subcommittee and the advisory board, and those extra schedules are just taking more time to get everybody to be available. So Parks is also going to be probably a little bit later than we would like, but we just want to make sure that everybody is there, and Wellness is being rescheduled about a week later than originally anticipated.
Any questions for Michael? Wes, anything from the fairgrounds?
I guess one tiny update, which is really just also a question. We did meet this week, and we approved project requirements. I thought maybe they'd be on the agenda to approve today. Is it just, that'll be on next month? There's no reason it's not on.
Yeah, we'll have them for the board next month.
Okay, great. That's our update then. It was, we had a lot of discussion and have a good project requirements put together and approved it just this week, so we'll have it next month.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else about the river, Michael?
Well, just, we did meet, had a very active meeting. We had the presentation that Mike Knopp gave us earlier, and I'd like to also comment to Mike that, it seems like every meeting we have, he comes with some new announcement or something else going on down there. So it's been very exciting to meet and find out what's going on. And we also had the discussions regarding the site selection for the Whitewater that we discussed a few moments ago. Other than that, we had an update on the MAPS 3 River Race Course Windscreen project, and we had some presentations done by Rand Elliott, and with some conceptual designs and some cost estimates on that. So we're still looking at those. And we had an update on we were advertising for bid for the Racecourse River Lighting Improvement Project. And so once we kind of get those bids back, we'll kind of be able to have a better idea of what level of lighting and level of windscreens we'll have to work with on the budget that's available. Other than that, I think that was pretty much it.
All right. Any questions for Michael? Zane, did you want to say anything else about trails and sidewalk?
Sure. In addition to the resolution approving the project plans for both trails and sidewalks, we discussed methods to conduct surveys of the public to get an idea on desires for sidewalks. And then we also received a presentation on Phase 1 of the proposed trail to run from Council along the river up to over Holster. So it was a very good proposal, and we're ready to click it along.
Right. Anything else from subcommittees? All right. Let's move then to item 11. Eric, you have some informational items for us?
We do have several that are included in your packet, and I'll just briefly introduce these and answer any questions that you may have. Obviously, the first is the park property acquisition map. This has been updated as of February 9th, and I think you'll continue to see the number of dark blue boxes continues to increase. There are, I believe, 3 additional items, or I guess 3 items, but 2 of those are actually acquisition status updates that are for the park specifically. You notice on the upper left-hand side, property V2. On the lower right or mid-right, you'll see property V7. You'll see that there's 2 acquisition agreements in your informational packet. There's also a lease agreement that's included, and this is, again, as we work to be partners with the property owners. This is an existing business that we're going to lease the property back to them so that they can find a new location through the end of this year. So you'll find those items there. The last item that's in your packet is item E, and it's the notice to engineers, architects, and planners for the MAPS 3 modern streetcar project. This is a general consulting contract where we're looking to have a consultant represent the MAPS 3 projects. This would be somebody that could help us assist in design questions, things that are coming up regularly at the subcommittee meetings that staff is just simply not knowledgeable or not qualified. And so we would be going through a selection process. This would not necessarily be the consultant that would do the actual route designs, the plans for bidding. This is, again, a consultant to help us answer a lot of those questions about streetcar technologies, rail types, a lot of those selections as we kind of move forward with the transit projects in Oklahoma City. So I can answer any questions about any of those informational items that you may have.
Questions about those informational items? All right. That brings us to item 12. Eric, any additional items not included there that you wanted to update us on?
I think your subcommittee reports really summed up the week and really the status on each of the projects. We did not have a convention center meeting this month. Obviously, that is a project that, if you look at the timeline, is one that the consulting and some of the design work is out into the future at this point. But we are going to be meeting next month with Convention Center Subcommittee. They do also have project requirements that need to be reviewed, and then we can address any additional business that they have in March.
In that regard, Eric, the process for acquiring the property has been approved by the council, and that's underway. Is that right?
So staff is underway with the acquisition process. So appraisals, all of those steps that we moved to take forward so we can make an offer are underway, yes.
Thank you.
On the park, I think, again, an excellent job on the updates. There is initial engineering work that's going to be underway very soon with selections of 2 engineers for the utility and also the environmental work. But then I think the more exciting is the interviews that are pending, most likely going to occur now in April, but this would be for the park master planner and the Phase 1 work. And so those are coming very shortly. Transit, just updated that we've got the first level of consulting, and I know there's a lot of enthusiasm with the subcommittee for discussions next month. Health and wellness, again, we're waiting on interviews. Trails and sidewalks, there's a lot of momentum on this project, and I think it most likely will have several bidding documents available shortly. There are meetings being held for the sidewalk locations. I think over the next couple of months, that subcommittee is going to be active in selecting those first areas that will receive work, and the intent of MAPS is to, as soon as those are identified, put together documents so that we can put things on the ground. There's obviously a lot of master planning to go, but the initial push is very good. Trails is proceeding well, and then again, we've updated somewhat on the fair, but in your packet today was the approval of the Phase 1 work for that site planning, so I think you'll see additional reports in the future. So we've got quite a lot in store for 2012. We talked again last month about all the planning that was underway, and we're now moving into that design phase. And so I think you can expect regular meetings and a lot of discussions and reports coming to you very shortly.
I just would have a question, Eric. It was brought up at our meeting last week that we're getting to the point at the transit that we really need to start coordinating with the park and with the convention center subcommittees, and we wondered if it was possible that we could have some kind of joint meetings with those committees to kind of work out some of our questions.
And the answer to that is yes. I think we've anticipated that for some time. I think one of the things that we'd like to have is if we're going to have consultants on board, consultants that can actually help us answer those questions both from the transit perspective and in the parks perspective, we'd like to have them available. I think we can initiate those discussions, but having them there would be obviously very advantageous, especially since those designs will be coming out of those. So again, to reinforce 2012, I think we will have more joint meetings and perhaps the transit and the parks, along with I think probably the convention center too, will be some of those that will be having joint meetings soon.
All right. Any other member of the board have a comment? Kim?
I do. I just want to say that I've been spending a lot of time in the downtown area, hanging out on concrete pads and other areas, visualizing where all these things are going to be, and it's really exciting. This week, I had the pleasure to get a personal tour of the proposed streetcar route from Jeff Besdick, who is a community volunteer well entrenched in the transit project, and Jill Adler, I was going to say, who are both members of the subcommittee. And it was amazing. I mean, obviously we were in a car, but it was amazing to drive that route and really feel exactly the vibe of how that can be. I was also amazed at the knowledge that these subcommittee members not only had of transit and streetcar operations from other cities, but of the development happening in the city around the route. I encourage all of you at any point in time, if you can spend some time in the city just looking at all the construction going on in private development, it's amazing what this city is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. And I want to commend your subcommittee for the work that they're putting out and doing a great job in looking at the big picture.
I think Jeff, Mark, and Jill are doing a great job.
Anyone else? Well, I wanted to mention one thing, Eric, as we move into the implementation phase here. We know that we continue to put extra burden on staff as all of these things try to get together for a week. But I wanted to compliment you and David and Wayne and your whole staff, and Amanda as well, for the way the meetings are being staffed for us. I think it's working for all of us. We really appreciate it. We know David's working his way into the process here in a way that's really positive, and so we're excited that we're getting all of the staff help that we need. And if there are, I think it's going to get more, what I want to say, hectic in the days ahead than it's already been. But I just encourage all of you, if you have comments, things that you'd like to see done differently. Right now, we seem to be rolling along at a good pace, and I just compliment you and the staff for doing that, and welcome David. I think we're glad to have him here.
Well, we appreciate that very much, and I think as you do get questions, don't hesitate to email the MAPS office, contact David or one of the staff members with questions that you have. We'd like to field those as much as possible, and of course, if there are questions that you have before a subcommittee meeting, we'd like to come prepared with information as well. So don't hesitate to contact the office if you need anything. Thank you.
All right. Are there any comments from citizens who are here for this meeting? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn? Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor say aye. We're adjourned.